Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Black, editor-in-chief at insideHPC. And today, in preparation for next week's big Supercomputing 23 conference in Denver, we have a distinguished group with us. We're looking ahead to the conference, looking at the sessions, keynotes, topics, possible news that we all think will be particularly interesting, compelling, and exciting. We have with us Lois Curfman McInnes. She is senior computational scientist at Argonne National Laboratory and an Argonne Distinguished Fellow. She was also deputy director for the software technology focus area of the Exascale Computing Project. We also have Sunita Chandrasekaran, associate professor at the University of Delaware in the in the Department of Computer and Information Sciences. She is a computational scientist at Brookhaven National Lab. And for the Exascale Computing Project, she was a PI playing a leading role in the Solve software development project for ECP. We also have Addison Snell. He is co-founder and CEO of HPC industry analyst firm Intersect 360 Research. And we have Earl Joseph, CEO of industry analyst firm Hyperion Research. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Lois, why don't we start with you? When you get to Denver and the proceedings begin, what are you going to be most interested in looking at?
Well, that's a tough question because, as we all know, there are so many exciting topics and happenings at supercomputing. I especially, though, am enthused about the theme of the conference overall, I am HPC, and the opportunity that theme presents to all of us to think about each of our unique roles in HPC and what we can do to help build toward a future that addresses the most compelling challenges in our society. So the kickoff keynote on Monday, led by Valerie Taylor, with some esteemed panelists, will talk about that. And so I am excited about how that will kick off a whole week full of activities of many sorts.
Yeah, there's a continual topic of thought and discussion about the future of HPC, given some of the demographic challenges the industry is facing. Sunita, how about you? Where are you going to be in Denver?
Right. +1 to all that Lois said. I'm very interested to see the I am HPC, keynote and just the kickoff, which is usually very grand and lots of topics, explosion of topics like every other year that I see. I'm also interested in some of the workshops that will happen on Sunday, Monday, and Friday. Given ECP and the novel architectures and the evolution of hardware landscape, I think it would be crucial to learn more about the software ecosystem and how real world applications can be ported, migrated in a performant, portable, yet productive manner. So there are some topics on those like weekly HPC directives workshops and so on, as well as it's great to see SC has also been focusing on interdisciplinary science in the past several years, and it seems to continue this year as well. There is a cancer workshop, and I think the dialogue between domain scientists and computer scientists is so important. And it's really good to see some of these interdisciplinary science workshops also kicking off. So I'd be interested to see how those dialogues happen.
Okay, excellent. Earl, how about you?
Well, I'm always excited about visiting with all the different people and all the different folks at SC. So just getting together is wonderful. The keynotes look really interesting and insightful. One of the biggest problems in our view of the industry is the lack of talent, the lack of people. We have too many people retiring versus those people entering the community. And so I'm very thankful that the topics are related to that. Also looking forward to see where ECP ends up. We hope that there'll be continued funding and investments in those areas, because what ECP really did reshape our abilities to use large-scale supercomputers. And also looking forward to see if there's any major changes on the top 500 list. So we'd be excited to see that. And plus all the other presentations.
Okay, Addison, please jump in.
Well, I can't disagree with anything that's been said before. I'll leap in on HPC. It's an absolutely critical touch point for our industry to look at how do we get the next generation of talent, and that has to include a greater diversity of talent, or else we're just not going to have enough people. It's not only the right thing to do, it's good for our industry in all kinds of ways, and I'm hopeful that it can be something that's more than just a conference theme, that really gets each of us individually thinking, what specific actions can I take to promote equity in our industry on an ongoing basis and promote more opportunity. We are going to be sponsoring one of our teams in the student cluster competition that came out of our annual Winter Classic invitational student cluster competition that our Chief Research Officer, Dan Olds, runs, that benefits specifically historically Black colleges and institutions and Hispanic serving institutions. If you're interested in supporting that for 2024, we're signing up sponsors for that now, and I'm really excited about that slate of students. Definitely +1 to what Earl said about the top 500 list. We are watching that keenly, and of course the ongoing changes in the processor space with CPUs and GPUs, where they're coming together in integrated form factors, where are machine learning and HPC kinds of implementation starting to diverge rather than converge, and therefore what's the role for some of the non-conventional processor architectures. And then there are any other number of technologies in transition: liquid cooling, quantum computing, composability. It goes on and on. This conference keeps us jumping.
Well, HPC, if anything, just it's getting hotter and hotter, as the years go by. It's more in the center of things, especially around AI and generative AI, which is just having such a tremendous impact, both on the commercial side and in the public sector side of the labs. So sticking with you, Addison, I would imagine AI and all the technology components that go into it is really going to be the center stage. I know you just came out with new market findings. What are some of the key trends going on in there?
Yeah, we've been surveying on generative AI, all sorts of machine learning, where it overlaps with HPC, and it really makes sense to talk about the combined HPC AI market because they have more in common than they do disparately, and most of the people who are doing one are doing another. There are pockets of people doing only scientific computing without AI or doing only machine learning without scientific computing, but those are small enough that it really makes sense to talk about the market together. And then you mentioned generative AI, and there's been such a zealous boom of interest in generative AI that we updated our forecast and put out the net additive effect over the 5-year forecast. It's purely additive to the market, and we had it adding $8.5 billion of spending in total over the next 5 years. That's mostly concentrated into a bubble in 2023 and 2024. It would have been more early in 2023, except for supply issues, or mostly around GPUs, that's pushing a lot of the actual recognition of that spending and deployments into the cusp of 2023 and into 2024. By the time we get to late 24, early 25, what I really would like to start to see a conversation around is not just the parlor trick of here's what generative AI can do. It painted a picture, it wrote a bad poem, but what's the business model behind it, and what am I specifically trying to do by investing in it? And we went through this with the World Wide Web in the late 1990s into the early 2000s. Other than AI for AI's sake, what's it for? What am I going to do with it? And I think SC23 is not too early to have those conversations.
Now, Earl, you all at Hyperion also just came out with your market update. I assume that you're seeing AI, HPC AI, as really a rapidly emerging and dominant factor here.
I guess we've just finished a couple studies, and it's amazing to us how quickly generative AI, large language models, are being adopted and actually put into real use cases. At our last HPC user forum, we actually had a half day of success stories on using generative AI. And some are just amazing to us. For example, they're even being used in the legal profession quite heavily right now. And like Addison, we're in the process of updating all our forecasts because from our studies, people are finding new budgets, new money to spend on doing AI itself, incorporating AI into HPC. And so we released our new numbers last week, but we're in the process actually of updating the longer term ones because we think the impacts are higher than we've currently put in our numbers. But to us, there's just some major shifts happening in the market. So if you look at it, traditional HPC plus AI and all those pieces for on premises, we're expecting around an 8% growth each year over the next 5 years. But then if you look at the purchase of GPU boards and accelerator boards of all types, we're seeing a 17% yearly growth. Now that's the purchase of the boards themselves. If you add revenue to that, it's dramatically higher. Then if you look at running workloads in the cloud, and the cloud is more friendly to the AI workloads because a lot of people can't get access to the GPUs. Plus, if you have large data already in the cloud, it makes sense. We're seeing that growing at close to 18%. And then if you look at just running AI by itself, that's growing on the order of 22 to 23% a year. And then if you look at just the deep learning section of that, we're at 20 or 32%. So the differences in these growth rates are really reshaping the market right now. So it's a very exciting period.
Okay, great. Thanks. And Sunita, in this whole HPC AI, generative AI realm, from where you sit, really focused on software, are these areas that you're concerned focused on as well?
Absolutely. Within my group, we have started to discuss several of these topics, especially talking about AI and HPC, and from the ECP angle, with ECP, wrapping up at the end of the year, and we're looking into sustaining software projects so that we can continue doing what we established the past several years. How can we leverage LLMs, AI, in a way that we can shift how software is being developed to a certain degree, that the humans keep doing what they're doing because we need them to do what they're doing, but there may be some pieces that could be offloaded to AI LLMs. For example, probably software testing. Is there to think out of the box, how could we use LLMs to do those pieces? And we will be discussing some of these topics in democratizing DHPC, which is one of the workshops happening earlier in the week, post ECP plants, right? How do we incorporate this explosion of AI LLM within HPC so we make both best use of both worlds? So it's a constant topic, and I'm very curious to see what kind of panels, BOFs, papers, and conversations in general at the exhibitor floor we can have to come back with ideas and use them in the approaches and projects that will happen post ECP, because I think it's time we think a little out of the box as well.
Great. And Lois, please jump in. I know you're heavily involved in the overall Exascale effort, and also in particular with Aurora at Argonne.
Sure. Yes. As the previous comments have mentioned, there's just tremendous explosion of interest in the intersection between high performance computing and AI. And I'm in particular excited about, there's a panel session that will take place on Friday led by Siddharth Alam that will focus on exascale software ecosystems and state of the union SWOT analysis, which will be considering some of these topics. Also, there'll be a really interesting panel session on Thursday led by the Industry and Agency Council for the Exascale Computing Project, talking about how exascale and these future trends are impacting industry in many important ways. And I'd say, moreover, beyond just the super high-end computing on the extreme scale architectures, there's quite a bit of progress at all scales of computing, where high performance computing and using these new and exciting heterogeneous architectures are impacting even desktops and moderate sized clusters to enable scientists at all scales to decrease their power consumption and do their simulations much more rapidly than they have been in the past. So we consider this to be very exciting, not just for the few people who have access to the largest supercomputers, but really for our whole community. And to that end, there's a BOF session that will take place on Wednesday. That's a collaboration among the activity groups led by ACM, IEEE, and SIAM, who are focused on high performance computing, that will be looking at various issues in ways that we as an international community can collaborate, especially as we're looking to bring high performance computing even more broadly to our international community. And you did mention Aurora, and I should say the teams leading Aurora are excited about the progress with that machine. We're currently in a state where the system has been installed and is doing well, and the team at Argonne is in the midst of working on advances in stability and whatnot. So there'll be some interesting results being shown at SC, including at the DOE booth, and in partnership with the vendors, with Intel and HPE. So
Aurora, what's that? I haven't heard about it.
there'll definitely be some exciting news for people to look out for at the show floor and beyond.
Looking forward.
Pardon me?
Looking forward to all the excitement.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just open the question up to anybody who'd like to jump in, but there's a general sense that as HPC now combined with AI pushes the envelope, there's a need for new technologies, sort of foundational technologies, if you will, to keep overall performance growing, and also new technologies like, for example, quantum. In looking at the combinations of enormous data and tremendous compute power, are there emerging areas of technology that you all will be thinking about next week and investigating?
Well, one area that we're very interested in is what's the future of post-exascale? How will the large systems actually be configured and designed? And Doug, based on what you just mentioned, all these new types of technologies, new types of GPUs, quantum, AI, and also all the software ones, we're expecting to see future systems to be built on separate modules. Now, those modules hopefully will be connected together. But for example, the first exascale machine in Europe is following that path. And so we're very interested to see, can that really perform? Can you actually use, large problems on those? And, what are the pitfalls and what are the best practices?
Yeah, thoughts from anybody else, including things, for example, like optical I/O, or
right.
Please jump in.
I can chime in to the quantum topic because I made some notes on the ones I would love to go to. There is an IEEE Quantum HPC working group. It's a BOF. There is another BOF that says new competences. Are we ready for the uptake of exascale and hybrid quantum classical computing? And there is a panel on quantum computing and HPC. I think we see there is quantum hardware, there is quantum simulator, but we know that there are several groups thinking about quantum software. So hardware is only as good as the software can make it get to, right? So it's time we think about what is the interface, what the quantum software looks like, what's the state of the art, which direction to go. And as experts in traditional and classical computing, it's time we leverage knowledge we have and apply that on building the quantum software ecosystem landscape before it blows out of proportion, because I think we're getting there very quickly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of these sentiments in terms of, looking at quantum and looking at what's going on with networking, composability. Dan Olds is going to be moderating a panel on immersive cooling on Friday. I think, these are really critical technology areas, and of course, we want to watch them. The bigger point, though, is I think, we have to be appreciative of how much a lot of this industry is really driven outside of this conference now and what goes on in the hyperscale companies. And we can't stress enough how much those hyperscale companies have become a market unto themselves. And that's really where most of the GPUs are going. It's where most of the AI is going right now. As just an example, I was at the RISC-V Summit, and Ventana introduced its new Veyron V2 RISC-V processor. It's specifically targeting high performance data center markets. I think that's got an interesting potential future for HPC, particularly with the Euro HPC initiatives around RISC-V. But then right after that, Meta got up on stage and talked about how they were designing their own RISC-V processor, right? And if you're talking about these big companies that are designing their own technologies that are going to essentially compete with the commercially available things that are out on the market, that's an enormous market mover. So we have to be looking at what are the dynamics with hyperscale relative to the supercomputing market that we're used to tracking, and think about how does that affect our market in the long term.
Okay, very good. Thanks so much to all of you. Great thoughts, great insights, and we'll see you in Denver next week.
See you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.